Hello, 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 and welcome to Fun, Faith, and Fuckery, the show that brings you more play, pray, and slay into your day. I'm Nikki Bailey. I'm a performer, writer, and Emmy-nominated producer, and I have a Master of Divinity degree. I went to seminary for ministry, and now I do this. I'm so excited because my guest today is my mentor, my pastor, my spiritual mama, Reverend Cari Jackson. Before we talk to Cari, though, I want to tell you a little bit about how you can be more involved in the success of the show and help make Fun, Faith, and Fuckery a big hit. First way you can do that is to support the show by telling your friends and family. Share, tell everybody, talk about it, share and help spread the word. Second, you can like, comment, and review the show wherever it is you're watching it or listening to it. Comment on Facebook or YouTube right now during the show. I can see your comments as they come up in real time, and it really enriches the conversation to have people talking to us while we're talking to each other. You can also leave 5 stars or give a thumbs up ratings wherever it is you watch or listen. And finally, making this podcast is a labor of love for me, and it's something I really enjoy, but it also costs a little money. So if you want to support the show financially, you can join me on Patreon as a monthly member and gain access to extra features and special content. Or if you want to make a one-time donation to the show, you can do that through my Venmo at Nikki-Bailey-2. Check out my website for more information about how to support the show. So let's get started. I just read this article that just came out last week from the New Yorker about I'm speaking English. This here's the article. It's about the age of reopening anxiety, and that's what I wanted to talk about a little bit before I talk to Cari. So we're facing the sort of end of the pandemic, we hope, right? And we're all sort of getting back out there where people are getting vaccinated. San Francisco is on target to be the first city that reaches herd immunity. So people are getting vaccinated. We're going out more. We're being social again, going back to work. Kids are going back to school, and it is freaking me out. Is it freaking you out? It's freaking me out. I don't know why it's freaking me out, because I've been working from home for the last 6 years. I don't have to go nowhere. Now that this pandemic is over, I'm not going nowhere. I'm gonna still work from home, hopefully. But I'm freaking out. There's so much anxiety involved in the whole going back to the world that the APA, the American Psychological Association, published a study in March saying that almost half of Americans surveyed felt uneasy about adjusting to in-person interaction after the pandemic. And the number wasn't any different for people who've been vaccinated. Nearly half of adults said that they didn't feel comfortable going back to life like it used to be before the pandemic. And that, to me, is huge. That more than half of us are feeling so nervous about going back to life, what it was like before the pandemic, that number one, it makes me wonder, like, the pandemic gave us the opportunity to see how much our real lives maybe weren't working before the pandemic, but also it shows that over this last year, like, of being so isolated and so separate from one another, that some of us have kind of lost the ability to be social. This author that was quoted in the article, her name is Priya Parker. She wrote the book, The Art of Gathering. She said, our social muscles have atrophied. And it's true. I went out for drinks with a friend, and I found myself constantly stumbling over my words and not sure where to start the sentence and not sure where to start the story, and trying to remember what the last thing was that she and I talked about, because I felt like I was saying stuff I'd already said to her. It's really awkward to get back out there and start having conversations with people again. Another person who was quoted in the article, his name was Arthur Bergman. He's a psychologist who talked about the fact that people are having to sort of get used to going back to real life is called reentry, we are re-entering what regular life is supposed to be like. And that comes with some anxiety that he calls cave syndrome. We've basically been in our little siloed caves for the past, 18 months or so, staying inside, staying away from each other, that we've got almost sort of like he called it mirrors Stockholm syndrome, where we've been held captive and formed a bond with our homes. We formed a bond with our quarantine routines and with all the things we did while we were stuck inside. And so it's now hard to like break that and come out of it. So are you guys experiencing this too? Are you having panic and anxiety and even maybe a little depression about the world reopening? I know for me, one of the things I'm worried about is I lost all of my work when the pandemic started. I lost all of my income, and I was able to get on unemployment benefits because of the pandemic. But those federal benefits are going to end soon, right? They're going to end, I think, at the end of the summer in September. And I'm really, really concerned about what happens if I don't have a job by September. And so that's really kind of like in my head, like what's going to happen to everybody financially when those federal extra unemployment funds go away. And we're all like, yo, can I borrow $20? Can I borrow some rent money? Can I borrow some food money? Hello. It's really going to be tough out here for people. My friend Leah, who's in the chat, she said she feels like going back. It feels a little similar to double dutch. And well, I wasn't good at double dutch. It does. It feels like you're trying to like find the way in. Like, how do I jump in? How do I find my entry into this new world post-pandemic, where we have almost a caste system of the vaccinated and the non-vaccinated, the maskers and the anti-maskers. We have all these different people who are trying to figure out, like, how do we live together now with our differing beliefs in the midst of this pandemic that's probably going to still be with us for the next few years, even if it's not the way it was for the last year. It's not going away necessarily anytime soon. So I don't know, you guys. I'm freaking out a little bit. I'm trying to remain cool. I'm trying to enjoy the going out and being social with people. I went out for drinks the other night, and it took me a while to get comfortable having my mask off to enjoy my beverage. But don't get it twisted. I enjoyed my beverage. You know what I'm saying? I always enjoy my beverage. So we're going to have to, really like let ourselves adapt to this new way of living and to this new normal that we've been. And this is, I think, part of the issue is the new normal has changed every day for the past year. What we thought of as normal has shifted with all the new, every time we get new information, every time we get new information, every time there's a new variant of the virus, every time there's a new giant gathering or a holiday or protests anywhere, we're all kind of like, this is our new normal. This is our new normal. And so now we're all figuring out how to live in it. I hope we can. I think we can. I want to think positively about it. I think that this is a whole new world for us. All kinds of new possibilities could be opening up for people. Maybe you were never able to work from home before, and now you're able to. And wonder, isn't that freeing up 2 hours of commute time for you? Love it. What if you are somebody who had always worked in an office and was never able to, I have a friend who's always talking about how much she hates cleaning her house. It's too hard to go to work all day and then come home and cleaning her house. But since the pandemic, she's been able to keep up with her cleaning and made her home much more comfortable. So like, let's try to focus on the positives of the last year and focus on the positives of what it's going to mean to get back out there and get social again and start enjoying the world again. It's going to be so exciting. So my guest today is an ordained minister in the UCC Church, which is the United Church of Christ. She served as the pastor of congregations in the UCC, United Methodist Church, and Presbyterian churches. She's been an adjunct faculty member at Union Theological Seminary, hey, Union, as well as One Spirit Interfaith Seminary, both in New York City. She's taught and preached in Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, Buddhist, and interfaith settings. She holds a Doctor of Philosophy in Christian social ethics, a Master of Divinity, and a Juris Doctorate and a bachelor degree in psychology and sociology. She got all the education, y'all. Okay, my spiritual mama do not play. All right, she got all the education. Please help me welcome my mentor, pastor, and spiritual mother, Reverend Dr. Cari Jackson. Hi, Cari.
Hi, how are you? All the education, indeed.
You got all the education, girl. You is educated for the gods, as
Indeed.
the children would say. So the show is called Fun, Faith, and Fuckery.
Yes.
Which F do you want to talk about?
All of them. Are they separate?
No, not in reality. I don't think they are. So we met at Union Theological Seminary 20 years ago. My first year I know, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It was my first year of seminary, 2001, and you were acting as the seminary pastor. I think you were the interim seminary pastor. And as far as I'm concerned, you've been my pastor ever since. I haven't even bothered with going to nobody new shit. You my pastor. So you are a UCC minister. You're a doctor of Christian ministry, a law doctor. A doctor of Christian ethics. You're a lawyer. Why you got all these degrees? Tell me about how did you become the collector of these degrees?
Well, I wanted to go to law school. That was my plan. And so I did it. And while I was in law school, God upped God's game. God had been pushing me since I was 19 years old for me to go into ministry. And I kept saying no. And then when I was in law school, as I say, God upped God's game and was just, no, girl, I know you've been trying to run, but you know, this is what the world needs for you to be and to do. And so I started preaching while I was in law school as a lay person. And 3 years after I finished law school, because I was in law school in my 30s, 3 years after I finished, I moved to New York and started seminary, and at age 40. And I know your audience might think I'm only about 45 now, but that was a joke, y'all. That was the fun part.
That's because that good black don't crack. We know.
But that's how that happened. And I didn't want to do the PhD, but that was also something God really, really kept pushing me. And because I have learned over the years that there's always an incredible blessing for my life and the lives of other people when I follow the direction God is leading me, I said yes. And it's been absolutely powerful. So that's how I got all that education.
What is it like for God to call you? How did you know God called you?
Oh, I love that question. I have a very auditory experience. And years ago, there were some people, as I was in the ordination process, who heard about some of my auditory experience. And they said, are you sure she don't need some medication? But which for me is a sad commentary that there are some who are in religious institutions who do not have a spiritual connection. And for them to hear that God said to someone, even though they read that in the biblical text, God appearing in a burning bush or God speaking, and so for me, it has been really hearing like someone is speaking directly in my ear. Sometimes it has been God speaking through strangers walking up to me and saying, you know, God's called you to the ministry. I mean, complete strangers. And so it's come
Wow.
in a variety of ways. It's come in dreams where I have seen myself preaching before thousands of people when I was still in that point of saying, no, I don't want to do that. So it's, as I said, it's come in a variety of ways. And because I've had that kind of spiritual connection my entire life, it's not been something I've questioned. Um, I've questioned it when it was something I really didn't want to do. Are you sure that's, you know? Um, but even then, when I have such an incredible sense of peace, even with something I don't want to do, that's one of the ways I really know that that is spirit calling me to something.
Wow. Wow. I love that you said there are people who might have thought you were crazy because you have an auditory,
Yeah.
relationship with God. And I remember I speak very publicly about the fact that I have bipolar 2 disorder.
Yes.
And um, and I'll never forget, I had insomnia for like 5 days, and I hadn't slept, and I was really like losing my mind, and I was having what I thought were hallucinations. And instead of calling my therapist, I called you. And you said, do you want me to come over and we can do a cleansing of your house? Do you want me to pray with you? And I was like, that was exactly the thing I needed, because I was
Mm-hmm.
having this feeling like there was some negative spirit in the room with me. And I told you
Mm-hmm.
that, and you were like, okay, well, we can pray, and we can cleanse your space. And that you didn't hear that and say, oh, she crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Bless her heart. She crazy. The fact that you the fact that you didn't do that has always stayed with me, because I have both a grand imagination and a mental health challenge.
Yeah.
And so sometimes that can get confusing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so I always been really grateful that you helped me in that moment, and you treated it like a spiritual concern and not a psychiatric one. And that really made all the difference in the world for me. So I don't know if I ever
Wonderful.
told you that before.
No, no. So it's wonderful to hear. And many years ago, I met this fantastic psychiatrist who recognized that often there is this um, misdiagnosis of spiritual disorder as psychiatric disorder. And sometimes in my experience, there's been psychiatric disorder that people have misdiagnosed as spiritual disorder. And you really have to discern, and for people to be trained in understanding both, I think is really important. And for us to understand as well that having an emotional struggle does not constitute psychiatric disorder. And there's, a continuum of realities that we all experience, and depending on what we're going through, we move along the continuum. And I think so many people are quick to rush away or quick to label someone, and we really need to stop that. And what you were talking about in your opening segment about the normal, perhaps there's a recognition that that wasn't quite working, and we have an opportunity to create something new. And because we've all been in, you remember from your time in seminary, the language liminal space,
Mm-hmm.
where it is that suspended space where you get to create something new for yourself, and try out some new skills and try out some new ways of relating and behaving that might provide some incredible empowerment and peace and joy when you're in this out in the world context, whatever it might look like. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So you were raised in Black Pentecostal church,
yes.
and now you're a UCC pastor. So take me from I'm a little Pentecostal girl to I'm a pastor in the UCC church, which is incredibly progressive and or much more progressive than any Pentecostal could ever be. Tell me a little bit about what it was like growing up in a Pentecostal background and how that impacted you.
Well, there are a couple of things from that experience. One is when I was 6 years old, I really, really took it in. God loves me. That was the first thing I really took in from that experience. And then as I got older, I started taking in that there were some conditions regarding how God's love would show up in my life. And one of the conditions was that a person be heterosexual, and I wasn't. I knew from age 9 that I was either bisexual or gay. And of course, I didn't know any of that language when I was 9 years old back in the 60s. But I then struggled for years and years and years trying to what I call de-gay myself because I had really taken in that message that I had to show up in a particular way for me to be acceptable to God. And so one of the things that changed my life was when I was 19 years old and I was in undergrad. I was in a religion course and I read a book by Søren Kierkegaard, 18th century um, Danish theologian and philosopher. Kierkegaard asked the question, why do you serve God? Do you serve God to avoid going to hell? Good Pentecostal girl that I was, yes, that's why I serve God. And Nikki, something about my response grabbed me at a soul level. I'll say
Mm.
cellular and cellular level that said, no, 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 no. That's not who God is. That's not why God wants you to serve God. And so I went into this, it was kind of my in the great fish experience for 3 days. I fasted, I prayed, God, why do you want me to serve you? Why do you want me to serve you? And I came out of that 3 day experience saying, well, I'm only 19. I don't know if there's a hell. But what I do know is hell will no longer be a part of my relationship with God. I'm
Mm.
going to serve God. I'm going to be in relationship with God because of love, because of God's love for me and my love for God. That completely, completely changed my life.
Wow.
And from that point, in the Course of Miracles, they talk about there's only two forces. There's only love and fear. And so what, and I didn't know that language back then. I didn't know anything about Course of Miracles when I was 19. But what I came to understand was that I had been socialized in church and in my home to follow God, to serve God based on fear. And I
Mm-hmm.
said, nope, taking that off the table. However we show up is going to be because of love. And that has guided my life since then. And that was, a minute ago. That was a minute.
What do you believe now?
You mean, do I believe there is a hell?
Well, what do you believe in general about God, about the nature of the world, about spirit?
Well, there's a young boy, he was a 13-year-old boy, who was in a confirmation class I was teaching many years ago. And I was asking these young, 13, 14-year-old kids about who is God for them. And one boy said, God is every cell in the universe. That was it. And I heard it from a 13-year-old kid. And because I believe when we're children, we have so much more clarity about spirit than many adults do, because we start intellectualizing stuff and we take on, fear constructs and all of that. And what he said those many years ago really is my truth, that God is every cell in the universe. And so therefore, I don't have to be focused on creeds and doctrines. I don't have to be separate from other people, because we're, when we put all our cells together, we're all together. And I really, really believe that. And so, when we talk from a Hindu perspective about the oneness and God is one and that human beings are one, that is so much my truth. And so while I am an ordained Christian minister, and I love that as a follower of the teachings of Jesus, I'm also very interspiritual, and that really speaks to my life, because God's not a religion. God can be experienced through religion or not. And so all of that is true for me. And I'm always looking forward to opportunities to connect with people who are not Christian, because I learned something from them about God, because each religious track or tradition provides a particular frame of God, and I'm putting God in quotes. And my notion, my understanding, my experience of God completely transcends all of that. But they're nice attempts at, pointing towards something, as my boy Paul Tillich talked about. You remember Paul Tillich from seminary as well. Paul Tillich, and good Pentecostal that I am, right? So I'm a tongue talking UCC minister, and I love that. And so you'll have to explain to your listening audience what speaking in tongues is. That'll be your job, host. But I was reading Paul Tillich, German theologian, and he talked about Jesus as that which many people bow and worship. And he said, but Jesus is a symbol of the ultimate. That's the every cell in the universe, the ultimate.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was reading what Tillich was writing in his book on symbols, then I began speaking in tongues. It went down into my spirit with such truth that, God is bigger than the frame that Christians have about Jesus. And so that's why it's fun, faith, and fuckery for me. It's all of that in this very intertwined kind of way.
Yes, yes. It's so funny that you mentioned speaking in tongues, because one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, you grew up in a Pentecostal church. Evangelical churches tend to believe in spiritual gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of your spiritual gifts is speaking in tongues.
Yes.
I grew up in a Black Baptist church where we did not speak in tongues, and
Right.
and the rule was that you didn't speak in tongues unless there was someone there who could interpret it.
Interpret. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What other spiritual gifts do you have? What other gifts of spirit serve you and move in your life?
Wow. I think one is the ability I've had since childhood to connect with and talk with, and at times see those who have physically passed on. I don't call myself a medium in that sense, but every now and then some will appear to me, especially when they have a message they want to give to a loved one they've been trying to connect with, and the loved one um, has not been able to hear them. And usually that happens when people don't believe that they can connect with those who have physically died. So that's a spiritual gift. I have the gift of being able to see things, see disparate things that are seemingly unrelated, and to start connecting them in a way that helps move organizations and individuals in their lives. And that's been an amazing gift for me to watch work. And when I say I watch it, because it's really not something, when I hear the word gifts, it's something I didn't give myself. It's not something I manufactured myself. I've been gifted with it. I've been given it by all the cells in the universe for the healing and the wholeness of people. And so I really seek to do that. I see my intellect, since I got all the education, but I see my intellect as a spiritual gift. My ability to help people feel welcome and feel at home is a spiritual gift. And again, none of those things are about me. They're really about the healing and wholeness of people. And I've had people say to me many, many times, you're one of the most humble ministers I've met, and you have all this education. And I said, well, I didn't give myself any of the gifts that I have. No more than I gave myself the beautiful chocolate skin. And, my job is to take good care of and use wisely and lovingly the gifts that Spirit has given to me.
Absolutely. And you do use them wisely and lovingly. I wanted to just pull up this. Leah and Twala just wrote in the comments, talking about you. She said, "You moved me in seminary because you made me look in a mirror and say, 'I love you' to me. And I couldn't. And then I knew the work God wanted me to do." So you helped Leah find.
Hi, Leah. Awesome.
So you talk a lot about self-limiting beliefs. And it's one of the tools that you taught me that I always go back to, was learning how to take a self-limiting belief and transmute it into something that is self uplifting and self and positive. So can you tell us about what a self-limiting belief is, and how do you transmute that into something more positive?
So I want to give you a little background in my life. I think that'll help folks understand the language, self-limiting belief. So growing up, Black, dark-skinned, female, working class family, I was socialized by the society and the church that I had a particular place. There were some particular parameters regarding how far and wide I could go and how high I could go. And then, oh, did I leave out female? Okay, so that was another. So, some ceiling stuff. And then there was, add to that, when I was a young kid and recognized myself to be same gender loving, then that was putting some limits. And so throughout my life, and here's an example of the story. This story is an example of it. When I was in fifth grade, they did reading tests for all of the fifth graders in my school. And those reading tests were to determine which reading class each of us was to be assigned. So I tested at 12th grade reading level. Surely, surely this little black girl in the 5th grade could not have legitimately and honestly and of her own tested at 12th grade reading level. And so there was this effort for the reading teacher to suggest I had cheated. But I would have had to be pretty smart to cheat myself up to the 12th grade reading level. But that's a whole nother conversation, Nikki. But anyway, my homeroom teacher very politely said, "Well, why don't you just let her be here and see?" He knew my abilities. The way I was in that environment and so many other times because of racism, sexism, heterosexism, sexism, you name it, you name it. On classism, let me not leave that out. I was taught again and again and again that I was supposed to be small. And then add to that, when I was 14 years old, I was raped by a stranger on a day that I was feeling so powerful and vibrant and beautiful and da da da. And so then I started telling myself, if you are too vibrant and if you are loving life too much and proud of yourself and walking tall in your own self, they're going to hurt you. And so it was a narrative that I had created for myself. So it was the combination of those particular experiences in my life that I created these beliefs that I could go only but so far and be safe. And and I tell you, this is another funny story. Um, well, not that those stories were funny, but this one's sort of funny. When I was 13, 14 years old, I overheard my mother say to one of her closest friends that my brother, who's 5 years older than I am, was her smartest kid. Immediately, my grades plummeted.
Mm.
And so many of us, because of hurts and traumas we've experienced in our lives, because of socialization, we have created these narratives that say, I can only do X, when in your soul, you're really called to do A, B, C, X, Y, and Z. And so then there's this unhappiness, a depression, an anxiety, all of those kinds of things can stir up because you're not living to your fullest self. And so I really seek to help people identify what their own self-limiting beliefs are, the particular narratives they have, and to help identify what were there particular ages where some of those narratives were formed, and to help those ages, those younger you, to heal. And that is really exciting work for me. It really is.
I love the idea of self-limiting beliefs and learning that you don't have to be kept small by those beliefs. One of the things that you say to me all the time is, "You an eagle. Why are you scratching around in a chicken coop?"
Yeah,
And I
it's true.
love
You
that.
are an eagle.
And what's funny is I've told other people that you said that. So whenever I'm feeling like down on myself, I have friends who will say, "Remember, you're an eagle. Stop scratching around in that chicken coop."
And so
Yeah.
again, there's love and fear. And self-limiting beliefs are very directed by our fear. And one of the things I've come to learn, even in the during the pandemic, really, I got this. And that is, that I had been trying to keep myself safe in a lot of ways, when what my soul was really longing for was to be free. So
Yeah.
scratching around in the in the chicken yard might keep one safe, but or at least the illusion, because I don't even think that's safety. It's the illusion of true safety comes in the freedom, and so I'm ready. I'm going to be 65 this year. I'm like, I'm just getting started, y'all. I'm looking forward to seeing what God and I are yet to do. I am so excited about it. And I'll turn 65 in another few months. I feel about that as excited as I did when I turned 21. I feel like, whoa, what are we going to do now? So I'm looking
Well, I
forward to that.
mean, didn't you do something really adventurous for your birthday
Yes,
recently?
yes.
Tell
So
us about that.
um, as a precursor to what I did for my birthday, when I got married in October 2019, and I went parasailing, which is something I'd been wanting to do for years and years and years, but of course never did anything to realize it. So I went parasailing, and then they asked me as I was registering, how high do you want to go? 800 feet or 1,200 feet? So self-limiting. See, listen to this. So I said, oh, I don't think I'm yet ready for 12. So I went to 800. Got up in the harness. I'm up in the air. It's such an amazing experience. I'm saying, oh my goodness, I wish I had gone to 1,200 feet. I want to go higher. I come back down in the boat. The guy whispers into my ear, the crewman, I hope you don't mind, but I took you up to 1,200 feet. So here I am. I was at 1,200 feet and wanted to go higher. So then the next week, I went zip lining. And someone said to me recently, I know you were an adrenaline junkie. I'm not. It's about getting it in my body what freedom feels like. And
Mm.
so then for my birthday, I went skydiving. It
Woo!
was amazing, absolutely amazing. And so I decided I want to do that again this year for my 65th. Um, it is, and again, I am not an adrenaline junkie, but I love flying, and I love the feeling of freedom, because as I feel it in my body, then I'm more able to replicate it in other areas of my life.
I love that. And can you say that again? If I can feel it in my body.
When I feel the freedom
Mm,
in my body, I'm
mm.
more able to replicate it in other areas of my life.
See, y'all see why she my pastor. You see me? You see what I'm talking about right there? You see what I'm talking about? Everybody don't have that kind of stuff just rolling around in their head. This.
You're
You see
so
what I'm talking
funny.
about? Reverend Dr. Cari Jackson, recognize. All right. Um, Cari, tell us about the Taking Back Your Life program.
So it's taking back my life.
My Life program.
And the reason it is that is because I want each person to be able to claim that for themselves. Taking back my life is something I developed shortly after I met you, because the World Trade Center, the devastation of that, and how it triggered the traumas so many people had had in their lives prior to that experience. It triggered sexual trauma and all kinds of family trauma for so many people. But in the course of that, I said, okay, there's something I really need to do to help folks to heal. And so I developed Taking Back My Life back then. And so for almost 20 years, or it's 20 years this year, um, I've been offering that in rooms with people and in small, I call them empowerment groups. And so hundreds of people have gone through Taking Back My Life over those years. 2 years ago, when I led a group, it came to me, Cari, this is a drop in the bucket. Hundreds of people, that's nice. But relative to the numbers of people who have experienced sexual trauma, you need to do something different. And so that's when I developed the idea to take the program, develop it into a virtual format. And so this was pre-COVID when the idea came. COVID and getting everybody online in the ways that it has, I think will help more people say, oh, I can do that, because people are already accustomed to this. So there's a couple components. One is a self-paced program that people can go through it, 6 modules, and looking at things like visioning beyond your limits,
Mm.
understanding trauma from trusted abusers,
Mm.
emotional anchors and triggers, rewriting narratives, and we finish that with strategies for thriving. So many people know how to survive. I want to help people thrive. And so that's self-paced. But with that, we supplement that with uh, virtual, via Zoom group discussions. And we did a pilot test of this earlier this year. And oh my goodness, it was just amazing. And, it's one of those things I feel Spirit used me to develop the program. But again, it's bigger than me, and it really is absolutely phenomenal. It is so phenomenal, Nikki, that it will bless the lives even of people who have not experienced sexual trauma, because we really get into the things about narratives and limiting beliefs, and a lot of those things that might have come as a result of other kinds of trauma and socialization and pain in people's lives. But it really is a phenomenal program. And this coming Tuesday, June 15th, we're going to do a 45-minute webinar specifically on the issue of healing your younger you. And I tell folks all the time, in every moment, you're every age you have ever been. And I want to help people unlock what's the age that keeps them stuck, the age that's trying to keep themselves feeling safe. And so then they sabotage what you're trying to do. You don't know nothing about that, do you, Nikki? But
Oh no!
anyway.
Oh no! This is completely unfamiliar to me. I have never heard any of this before. I can't relate at all.
So I'm really excited about that. Healing your younger you.
So where can people sign up for that workshop if they're or sign up to be a part of Taking Back My Life? Where can people find that?
Well, to sign up for Taking Back My Life, go into my website, drcarijackson.com, and there's Taking Back My Life is one of the, what do you call it, tabs,
It's a
pages,
page,
whatever you
yeah.
see. That's when my old stuff shows up, right? But and then all of the registration information is there, or you can go directly to takingbackmylife.co, not with a M on it, just the co.co. And then there'll be information for registering for both the workshop, I mean the webinar, and for the online program. And we are Taking Back My Life. The program is $379, but we are inviting people for early bird special to get a percentage of that off, and we really would like for your audience to get that. And I'm encouraging people in this year to get this $379 because the price is going to go up, but we're trying to get in as many people as we can. Having grown up working class family in a working class family, it's really important to me to make sure that things are financially accessible to folks. And so encourage your audience. But I'm serious, the material is just amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Is this in any way, do you remember years ago I took a workshop with you? Was that part of, I don't know if it
wow.
was.
Yeah.
It was about grief.
That was about grief. So there is a section in Taking Back My Life that deals with grieving, but that thing you experienced, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that was some stuff. Now, and I'll tell you all, the grief workshop that I took with Cari was life-changing. One of the exercises was that we had to we lifted each other in the air, and I was certain that I couldn't do it, that you weren't going to be able to lift me or hold me, and this group of people were able to, and that changed my whole life. It changed what I understood about what support is. It changed what I understood about what love is. It changed what I understood about burden. And I used to think of myself as a burden. And so having people lifting me and holding me and not begrudging me the effort of doing that was life-changing for me. And so I'm telling you all, if you get the opportunity to work with Reverend Dr. Cari Jackson on one of her programs in any capacity, as a coach, as a pastor, if you get to hear her preach, your life will be blessed. That's all I'm saying. Your life will be blessed. So
Thank you.
Don't miss your opportunity. I will make sure that links to Taking Back My Life and to the webinar are in the show notes so people can access that. Cari, it has been so wonderful to have you on the show. Thank you for coming.
It's been my joy. You know, I love you with my whole heart and support what you do. You're just an amazing eagle. And I look forward to seeing all of what comes from this particular expression of you, that you're integrating those various parts of you that I know will help other people have permission to integrate parts of them that society has said, oh no, this ain't, you know, all that caca. You know, I tell people that's a theological term, caca. But anyway, I'm just so proud of you, and blessings to all of your audience, and just thank you for having me here. This has been very special.
Thank you. I know you're traveling. I know you've had a tough week. So thank you for being here and for blessing us with your presence.
It's my joy, my joy.
Well, folks, that's all. I will link articles to put a link to the article from the New Yorker in the show notes, as well as links to where you can find Dr. Cari Jackson. You can watch this show on Facebook or YouTube tonight. The show will be on Instagram TV tomorrow and everywhere that you find your podcast tomorrow. If you want exclusive content, you can join me on Patreon. Remember, become a member on Patreon. You get that good special content that only members get. And as usual, it has been a blast. Thank you to my guest, Reverend Dr. Cari Jackson. Thank you all for joining me. Remember, get your play, pray, and slay on. And remember to sparkle while you do it. Thanks, guys. See you next week.